Hello, welcome back to the Hidden Channel and to another segment of my MCU. This will be phase two. And in my phase two, for the start of it, I want to begin with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series.
I want my Phase 2 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series to mirror the old fashioned series, outdated series, titled The Fugitive. For comparison contrast, Wolverine would be Dr. Richard Kimball, and U.S. Marshal Samuel Gerard would be Agent Coulson.
This will be a 12-part episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In the first episode of my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series, I want an intro. This intro will be titled Wolverine's Deal with S.H.I.E.L.D. This intro will explain that Logan was promised reduced prison sentence by S.H.I.E.L.D. and his direct conversation that he's having with Agent Coulson for his help against the Squirrel in my phase one, in which Wolverine joins my first Avengers team of my MCU. In this episode, we learn why he was imprisoned in a S.H.I.E.L.D. prison to begin with, which forced him to make that deal with S.H.I.E.L.D. Apparently, Logan at the Weapon X program was blamed for the murder of Abraham Cornelius. And for those of you who don't know Abraham Cornelius, he was the man responsible for Wolverine's exoskeleton, his adamantium skeleton. While Logan's sitting in a prison cell talking to Agent Coulson, and Agent Coulson is telling him how long he will be in prison for, Logan refutes the accusations that he murdered Abraham Cornelius. Agent Coulson walks away from Logan, not believing what he has to say on the matter, and the series ends with Wolverine plotting his escape from S.H.I.E.L.D. custody. Episode 2 of My Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Phase 2, we titled Chaos at S.H.I.E.L.D. Headquarters. Episode 2 starts off with Selene making verbal threats to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters for a book that S.H.I.E.L.D. has but doesn't know the value of, which is the Darkhold. Agatha is with Selene, and the two of them together as friends invade S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, causing all kind of chaos for the Darkhold. Moments afterwards, Ghost Rider pursues Agatha and Selene because they are seeking the Darkhold. In that chaos, Wolverine escapes S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, ending my episode 2, phase 2 of My Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. MCU. My episode 3 for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be titled The Hunt for Wolverine into Russia. At the end of episode 2, Wolverine grabs a Quinjet and escapes to Russia. Why? Because he's after Sabretooth to prove his innocence. And he's sniffed out Sabretooth's scent all the way to Russia. This episode would introduce characters like Amigo Red, October Guard, and Black Widow, Hawkeye for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. team, and Sabretooth, who we finally catch up to and get to see the truth of Wolverine's innocence. But Sabretooth still slips out of Wolverine's claws and capture, thereby creating a chase at the end of that scene. So even though the audience is more clear on who's innocent and who's guilty, Sabretooth still gets away. Leading to episode 4. Episode 4 of My Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I would like to title Wolverine's Trail to Japan. This episode will include Sunfire and his team that represents his nation. The Silver Samurai would be on this team, Lady Deathstrike. I'd also, of course, want to see Sabretooth again. I think another appearance of him would be okay, so long as he's kept that as someone as a elusive target that always seems to get away at the end of each episode. I also want to tease the Zodiac in this episode, which is a villain group in the Marvel Comics. For my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode 5, I want to title it Through the Dimension of Mojo. Now, I've been wanting this for a long time. When Fox had the X-Men mutant properties of Marvel, they never got to Mojo outside of maybe cartoons. And I would like to see a live-action cinema version of the Mojoverse. And Mojo, I think, for my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there should be a special guest appearance from Agent Valentina, who's in real life going to be in the real MCU movie, The Thunderbolts. But I'm not thinking of the actress from that upcoming movie for my purposes of my MCU's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series. I also think Agatha Harkness should be in this episode. Why? Because I think her and the Darkhold book could make it possible to enter into the Mojoverse. I think it's a good plot device to open up the Mojoverse. Usually it would be something with Doctor Strange, but I don't think Doctor Strange should be part of this episode at all. So I want to go with Agatha, her accidentally triggering a dimensional portal into the Mojoverse using the Darkhold book. I also want to see, of course, special appearances from Spiral, the Agent, and of course Mojo. I want a follow-up episode connected to this. So 2-part episodes. Episode 6, Through the Dimension of Mojo. The follow-up. I want a guest appearance from a Marvel character called Abaska. And for those who are not familiar with that name and are confused based on my poor pronunciation, she's supposed to be the futuristic version of Jubilee. I also want to see Shot in there, as well as Ares as guest star appearances. Also, I want to see Agatha Harkness again, as well as Agent Valentina, to wrap up this 2-part episode of Through the Dimension of Mojo. For my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode 7, I want to title it Wolverine and the Morlocks versus Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Standoff. This will be again part 1 of 2, a 2-part episode. I want special guest star appearance from Agent 13, Agent Valentina. I want Marvel's William Stryker in this, as well as Henry Gyrick. For my follow-up episode, completing the 2-part episode, episode 8, My Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I want to title that Wolverine and the Morlocks versus Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Standoff, part 2. I want special guests from Sabretooth, Abigail Brand, Professor X of the X-Men, and Bolivar Trask. Of course, I want Sabretooth to be in conflict with Wolverine, but I want him to be able to escape so we can use him for the next episode. For my episode 9, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I want to title that Wolverine Escapes to Canada with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. hot on his trail. I want special guests or appearances from Marvel's team Alpha Flight, characters from Department K out of the Marvel Comics. I want, of course, a special guest of Sabretooth, who takes much more of a recognizable role in this episode, because in this episode that I want to explain real quickly. I want to say that this is the episode where Wolverine finds sanctuary in Department K from American authorities. They offer him opportunity to work there, despite the fact that he's a wanted fugitive in the United States, provided he follows their rules. And he works alongside their other hired agent, Sabretooth, which, of course, leads to friction, considering the animosity between those two characters. I also want Professor X to be a special guest star appearance, but not as a person actually present there, but more of a telepathic presence, given the nature of this character and his telepathic capabilities. Episode 10 of My Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be a deviation from the previous episode. I titled this The Threat of Massimo versus Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where the common characters of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are not really chasing Wolverine at this moment. They're at headquarters trying to upgrade their tech. And then suddenly, new tech that they were installing that involves a master mold program. The same master mold which becomes a threat to the X-Men in X-Men comics, but not as a honking large Jaeger robots, but more of a program, a software program in cyberspace, becomes an issue at HQ headquarters. In a very early stage, it starts to see humans as a threat. Think of the movie Ghost in the Machine. Ghost in the Machine was about a person who died and whose spirit became this free floating consciousness within software. He used his newfound capabilities as a free floating conscious to do harm to others, causing traffic lights to go crazy, basic appliances to hurt other people, that kind of thing, that kind of chaos. In this episode, I want to see Howard Stark, the father of Tony Stark from Marvel Comics, Bowler Trask, and Henry Gyrick, trying to resolve this issue. I want to make this a two-part episode, so this will be the first part of that episode, ending episode 10, leading on to the next episode. Episode 11 completes episode 10 as a follow-up in my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series. Episode 11, I will title, of course, The Threat of Master Mold versus Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. For this episode, I want a guest appearance by Marvel's Norman Osborn, since he's sort of a techie company person. I think he'd be perfectly fitted for something like this. I want a special guest from Nick Fury, Marvel's one-eyed secret agent. Sort of. Anyway, Nick Fury, I want him there. Abigail Brand, the mutant with the talented tongue, can speak several different languages, green hair. I want her there. As well as Obadiah Stane. I think he's an interesting character and he would bring something interesting to an episode about an out-of-control software program called Master Mold. Episode 12 and the final episode of my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series, I want to title Captured in Canada. It's a follow-up to Wolverine's time in Canada, which I did not really complete. I wanted to close that up. Wolverine kind of rejects the offer that Department H was offering because Sabretooth was there. So while he tries to escape, Alpha Flight is out on his trail to probably expedite him back to the United States for crimes he committed there. Charles is helping him escape. Charles is doing his communication with Wolverine via telepathy. They met during the Morlocks episode. Charles learned then that Wolverine was innocent of whatever he was being accused of. And Charles is doing his best to guide Wolverine out of the situation he's in. At some point, Charles's efforts to help Wolverine works, and he's able to get to a train station and avoid Canada authorities. Where he goes, I'll leave that open. I'm not going to address that. I also want a special guest star appearance from William Stryker in this episode. Where he fits, I'm not sure. I just want him to be there. I think he should be there, but I might change my mind later. Let's get to the stars of this 12-part episode I created, which I call My Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Phase 2. Wolverine, as I said before, I want him to be played by Van Damme. But if he's not available, I think actors David Bradley or Tom Hardy would be good alternative choices. Agent Coulson, I think Clark Gregg, the original actor in real life who plays Agent Coulson, would be perfect for Agent Coulson in My Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think Weldon Vaughn should be in My Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, the reason why I say that is because, as you're well aware, if you've been following this project I've been working on since my phase 1, I had said I wanted the Nick Fury that was played by David Hasselhoff. And during that time, Agent Wendell Vaughn was introduced in David Hasselhoff's version of Nick Fury. Now, I think what is interesting about that character is that in the Marvel Comics, Agent Wendell Vaughn became a very powerful and very notable figure called Quasar. I'm sure in this because I don't think many people know that in real life there was clearly an attempt back in the 90s to try and Easter egg Quasar in live action cinema. So that's why I want Agent Vaughn there. I would have, if I had the power, bring Quasar in at some point in my future, and I would start with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Also, Agent Valentina, I want the original actress who played her in live action, Lisa Rinna, to play her. Agent 13, I think I'm okay with Emily Van Camp, who's the current Agent 13 in the real MCU. Agent 01, Roger Cross, I think should play him. Roger Cross is a decent, good actor. Agent May, I think, should be in this as well. Currently, in real life, she's played by Ming-Na Wen, and I think she'd be great in my MCU. I also think Agent Grant Ward should be in this as well. I like the Agent Grant Ward that was introduced in the real life version of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television series, who was played by actor Brett Dalton, and I think he should be in my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. One final note, I want to talk about a character change I want to make that I mentioned in my phase 1 regarding Mr. Negative. I had said I wanted Mr. Negative to be played by James Franco. I've changed my mind on that. I want actor Russell Wong to play Mr. Negative. If you don't know who Russell Wong is, he was a star of a television series back in the 90s called Vanishing Sun. Please subscribe to this channel to continue getting content like this. If you have any comments or questions, please place them below.